Joining us now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Mr. Secretary, good morning.
Good morning.
To you. Let's start right there. Donald Trump says he was briefed by intelligence officials about Iran's efforts to assassinate him. The ODNI has confirmed this. U.S. officials have. How concerned are you about this threat? And will there and should there be consequences against Iran?
Look, this is something we've been tracking very intensely for a long time. An ongoing threat by Iran against a number of senior officials, including former government officials like President Trump and some people who are currently serving the administration. So it's something we take very, very seriously. We're looking at it very carefully. I don't have any further information to share, but know that we're watching this very carefully.
Let's talk about what's going on right now in the Middle East. As you well know, a massive bombardment by Israel to the north into Hezbollah territory. The Israeli theory here is escalate to de-escalate. In fact, just in essence, hit Hezbollah so hard they're forced to the negotiating table. Put simply, does the U.S. support this escalation strategy by Israel?
Well, first, Israel has a real and legitimate problem, because here's what happened. After the horrific events of October 7th, by Hamas in Israel, in the south, Hezbollah from Lebanon joined in and started firing rockets into Israel. People who lived in northern Israel had to evacuate their homes. Villages were destroyed, homes were destroyed. 70,000 Israelis were forced from their homes. And Israel started firing back. You had a tit-for-tat going back and forth. People in southern Lebanon had to leave their homes too. And what everyone wants is to have a secure environment in which people can simply return home. Kids can go back to school. That's what Israel's after. So the best way to get that is not through war, not through escalation. It would be through a diplomatic agreement that has forces pulled back from the border, create a secure environment, people return home. That's what we're driving toward, because while there's a very legitimate issue here, we don't think that war is the solution.
Well, fair enough. Israel is not listening to that. In fact, the U.S. Defense Secretary on Sunday told his Israeli counterpart to give time for diplomacy to work. And on Monday, this Israeli bombardment was the most serious, deadliest day in Lebanon since 2006. Yeah, well, so Israel is not listening to the U.S. Why not?
What we're focused on now, including with many partners here in New York at the UN General Assembly, the Arab world, Europeans and others, is a plan to de-escalate and, again, to make sure that people can go back to their homes. But if there were to be a full-scale war, which we don't have and which we're working to avoid, that's actually not going to solve the problem. It's unlikely that people will be able to return home if there's a full-scale war going on.
Short answer. Does the U.S. support what Israel is doing right now in terms of this escalation in order to later de-escalate and get to the negotiating table?
What we support is solving the problem of making sure that people can go home, but we believe the best way to solve it is through diplomacy, not through war.
Why does the U.S. not have or use more leverage over Israel, its ally? We are the supplier of the bulk of its weapons of war. And yet there are countless examples, and you probably know them better than I, where Israel seems to flout what the U.S. is asking or suggesting. Why is that?
Look, we have a long-standing relationship and security relationship with Israel, including making sure that it has what it needs to prevent the many enemies that it has from attacking it, to deter them. And that's important to avoiding war as well. And in this instance, there is a real problem that needs to be solved. Again, from our perspective, the best way to do it is diplomatically. We're engaged with Israel on that. We're engaged with others in the region on that. And we need to, I think, find the opportunity now to stop any escalation, prevent a full-scale war, get people back to their homes.
Should the U.S. have been given a heads up, for example, that Israel was going to assassinate a political leader in Iran, in Tehran, or this Pagers attack of last week? Shouldn't the U.S., the Israeli ally, have gotten a heads up at a minimum?
Look, it's always nice not to be surprised by the action that someone takes. Certainly that's better. But since October 7th, besides trying to make sure that October 7th never happens again, besides trying to make sure that civilians in Gaza, men, women, and children who are caught in this horrific crossfire of Hamas's making, are better protected and get the assistance they need. We've also been working to prevent this war from spreading, from escalating, from going to other places. That's what we're focused on now, making sure that what you're seeing in northern Israel, southern Lebanon now, doesn't become a full-scale war. And on the contrary, that we resolve the problem that Israel has.
Can I ask you about that pagers attack where Hezbollah members were the targets and they're literally in their hands, their pagers exploded? Some see this as a technological coup and an ingenious move by Israel. Others, including John Brennan, former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta, whom you know well, saying it's a form of terrorism and it went too far. Where do you come down on it?
Look, we've got to start with the proposition that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization.
No question.
So designated by the United States. And the reality is, Israel left southern Lebanon. It had been occupying southern Lebanon for 15 years. It left in 2000. And all of these militia that existed there were supposed to put down their weapons. Hezbollah didn't do it. And then repeatedly, in the time after that, it attacked and posed a threat to people living in northern Israel. So it's very legitimate that Israel do something about Hezbollah.
No question about it.
The only question is, what's the best way to do it?
Oh, and the tactic.
And what are the best tactics? And those are things that we're always discussing with them. But right now, our main challenge is preventing a broader war, one that actually won't solve the challenge that Israel has. And, by the way, the Lebanese have, because they want to get their people back to their homes in southern Lebanon, too. We want that, too.
In fairness, you didn't answer whether or not you approved of this particular tactic.
Look, you're always looking at what someone is doing, trying to figure out what the second or third order consequences may be. Does it open up a whole new Pandora's box? It is something we're looking at.
Both sides, as far as the ceasefire in Gaza, do not seem very interested in a deal. It seems like the U.S. is working quite hard at it, and you have Netanyahu moving the goalposts late in the negotiations in some case. You have the Hamas leader who's also doing the very same thing, and it goes without saying it is Hamas that broke the ceasefire that existed on October 6th. Let's not forget that. You had said in mid-August that this was sort of maybe the last best chance, you said, for the deal. So in that same spirit of candor, what is the likelihood of a ceasefire deal right now?
We have a piece of paper, an agreement. It's got 18 paragraphs. 15 of those paragraphs have been agreed between Hamas and Israel. But what's happened over the last few weeks is Hamas has simply not been at the table, not been willing to engage on the remaining outstanding issues that if we close them, we'll close the deal. We'll get it over the finish line. Now, Israel would have some hard decisions to make in the very end game, too. So we have to look to that.
Well, let's just say the quiet part out loud. For President Biden is a lame duck president. He's not running again. Do you think that Netanyahu, Sinwar, other world leaders are biding their time, just running out the clock, hoping they'll fare better in a new administration, potentially one of Donald Trump?
Look, I can't put myself in the minds of other leaders, other partners. I can tell you, though, that with the end of a term, with the end of an administration, and I've been through a few of them in the past, there's also a certain amount of freedom because, and especially for President Biden, who's been doing this for so long and so well, he knows what he wants to get accomplished. He's determined to use the months that he has left as president to run through the tape.
So your message to anyone who perceives weakness or
my message to anyone who perceives weakness is President Biden's here till January 20th. He's going to use every single day to advance the national interest.
Secretary of State Tony Blinken, thank you so much for your time.
Great to be with you.
Hoda, over to you.
All right, Savannah, fascinating conversation.
Yes. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.